What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Before the Lock, episode number 26. I'm Rob with the Electric Playground, Davey with Stumbler Pinball. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Rob. I'm really good, man. How are you?
Good. I'm excited about the Blues. This is not the Blues, but
Okay.
playing hockey, baby. We're in the playoffs.
Do you know I used to play hockey in Australia? Ice
No.
hockey. Yeah. Little known fact.
Nice. Well, my video's popping.
Yep.
Woo, baby. All right, we got a packed show for you guys. As always, let us know how the audio is. We're always trying to figure that out, but we hope it's good for you. We're coming off a new release with King Kong. We're going to be talking about all that today. I'm going to be talking about my favorite thing about doing this show, which is always getting to play these games before Davey. Which is awesome. Are you
favorite part?
Are you got some FOMO over there? Are you in on this? Are you wanting to play it? What's your?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm definitely in. I'm really excited about it, man. I mean, I'm always excited whenever there's an Elwyn release because it's kind of like, it's big news in the pinball world, isn't it? Whenever the King releases a new game, and this one hasn't disappointed, so I'm definitely very, very excited about it.
So you're in, like in.
I'm in, yeah.
Okay,
I'm getting it. There's a couple of us that are getting them flown over here. So it's I'm getting an LE, but mainly because they just get produced sooner. So it means that we get access to the game earlier, and I get to look at it and play it sooner.
That's what they say. Big Tony's letting us know audio is good. The man that I don't know if he's getting the game is Jamie Burchell. Jamie, how you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Hey, Jamie. How are you, man?
Hey, Davey. Thank you so much for having me, boys.
Thanks for coming on.
Jamie with the JBS show, putting out content like all of us, or at least trying to. Man, tell us about who you are, Jamie, because I know you've done some amazing stuff recently, but not everyone knows you.
Now, formerly Jamie from the Wormhole, right? And I went on my own JBS show, doing podcasts, starting back up streaming. And on Twitch and YouTube, we'll get that going. We're going to be building a mobile rig so I can move it around from location to location rather than these static rigs that I had before. And good times, yeah. And I got to see Robin again. I see Robin too much. He's sick of me already.
We're all over the place, baby. No, Jamie had us at the Wormhole booth here at TPF recently, hosted the Twippies. You guys are known for lots of streams, right? And I think your big thing is like streaming pretty obscure titles. Tell us about just all the titles that you played and streamed. Obviously got to know really well. I think that's really unique for content streamers.
That was one of my favorite parts of being with the Wormhole was the eclectic 250 machines that were in that collection, still in that collection, from a Technoplay to a Zaccaria to a Bell Games to many different manufacturers, Taito from Brazil. So I've gotten to play all these crazy machines that most people have never even seen. So that's kind of fun.
And now are you doing something different with the show now that you don't have access to those gems?
Yeah, we're going to be really more focusing on interviewing people of pinball, telling their stories, as well as a new show that I just started with Kale Hernandez of the Electric Bat Arcade and Retro Ralph Franzio. We're going to be doing something called the Pinball Roundtables. That'll be on my channel once a month, and just having fun.
Nice.
So tell us a little bit about that. What's involved in a pinball roundtable?
We just we become very, very close friends from pinball. Me, Ralph, and Kale, and we have a chat, and it's hilarious. And we just talk pinball, and we talk to each other for the last 3 months, almost on the daily. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if we just did this as a podcast for ourselves and just let people in on the things that we get to do for this great hobby? And we recorded the first one at Stern. Zach Sharp, said, hey, there's an empty conference, because we were going to leave a little early. And Zach goes, no, use the conference room in the back. And so there you go. There is, and then we did a live show. That picture right there, Robin, got me on the Peloton this morning. I'll tell you
that. When I was recording that, I was like, Jamie's not going to be too happy with this angle. But
no, sir, that got me right on the Peloton, Davey. That picture, right?
Yeah. Hey, man, it's always good to be aspirational.
We're going to talk, guys, all about Kong. We got a bunch of people coming in that are here to hear us talk about Kong. You got a couple shills in the room between Davey and I already. established, premium, LE. But honestly, man, I think I haven't got a new stern in a while. Bond was my last one, and I've been kind of chomping at the bit at what, and there's been some obvious no's just for me personally, and this one was a yes. Jamie, I don't even know if you buy machines.
So I didn't have to buy
Yeah,
machines when I was
yeah.
with the Wormhole, and but the cool part of my new affiliation with Eureka Heights that I'm doing going to be doing a lot of streaming out of, is they get pretty much every stern and every new machine that comes out, and they put it on location there. You got a chance, Robin, to check out Eureka Heights. Fun time during the Twippies. So yeah, they're getting a Kong. They're getting a Kong Pro, which I'm excited to get because I got to flip it about 10 times Kong between the Pro and the Premium, and I really like the Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting texts from people right now. Nick is telling me the Pro. He's thinking about it. They had 5 machines there, so like I got to play both of them quite a bit, at least a little bit more than whenever I did that for D&D, which is the first time I think they only had 2.
That's right.
And I definitely, I mean, there's a lot more visibility into some key areas on the Pro. The Pro is more than fine, and it's sick. So also just to set the table, because Davey and I were kind of talking about we're not like the biggest Kong fans, so we're not missing the movies, which is obviously a huge part of the feedback on the art and everything. Where do you stand on that point, just so we know?
Yeah, I went in with a preconceived notion, Rob, that this game should have my New York feel to it. Being a New Yorker, I want to see the Empire State Building. I want it to climb the Empire State Building. I want all these things, biplanes surrounding the Empire State Building. That's Jamie's preconceived notion. Almost went in also more Art Deco, dark colors, rather than the purples and such, right? The minute I saw it, I forgot about that. And I knew the licensing of the Empire State Building was going to be an issue, guys, right? I mean, you can't, Davey, you can't just put the Empire State Building as a licensed wonder of the world, right? So you can't.
In St. Louis, we put the arch in everything. Is that really true? I mean, literally, it is in people's logos. Is that a licensed aspect?
Yeah, no,
okay.
the Empire State Building
That's
is
interesting.
licensed.
It didn't even occur to me that was even a thing with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and in terms of, I mean, for me personally, I mean, thematically, I'd always hew towards sort of jungle themes and stuff. You know, I love Congo and sort of that whole sort of palm trees and sort of jungle sort of esque sort of theme. So when I heard that it was on an island, I was really excited about that. But of course, the other side of me, like the modding side of me, realizes that, you know, I've got a lot of experience sort of producing buildings and things like that. So if it was in New York City, it probably would have been better for me from a modding point of view, that I could replace all these buildings, you know, in a lot of the same way that I did Godzilla. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword for me that it was going to be on an island. But they've sort of done a bit of both, haven't they, with this one? And that's one of the, again, it's one of the criticisms that sort of popped up on Pinside, is that you know, they've done sort of this island jungle theme on the one hand, but then Kong's also within the city, both within the gameplay and sort of, you know, where he's positioned with the buildings in the background. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard a lot about it feeling like it's jumping around, a lot of questions about where is the story coming from. I guess it's you're actually the woman in the storyline. You're not King Kong, which is very different from Godzilla, which is a reference point for us. I do feel like, well, I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think too much about that when I was there, so I'm definitely, the airwaves are kind of getting me into that thinking. How about you, Jamie?
Well, they told us right off the bat when we went out front to the lobby to start playing it that you're going to be playing as the woman, and I could care less. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I just didn't care about it anymore, Davey.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I completely agree with you. It's not, but as we were saying earlier, you know, King Kong isn't a huge story in both Rob and my life. You know, I haven't even seen the original 1940s film or whenever it was made. 1933. You know, so I haven't even seen that. I haven't seen Peter Jackson's version, which was 1990s, was it? I don't know.
Yeah, there's been 3 major Kong movies of 33. Then there was a remake in the 80s where he climbed the Twin Towers, and then there was Peter Jackson's remake, and then all the Skull Island.
It's interesting though, because on the other side of that, whether you've seen Godzilla's or not, the iconography of him climbing the building, having the woman, as I would say, is more implanted in our brains than anything in the Godzilla universe, and that is lacking. There's a lot of talk about like the collectability of the LE, and whether or not like the fact that it doesn't kind of hit that core desire, is that going to sell out the unit, which there's kind of all over the map on whether it's actually sold out, but it seems like there's plenty still out there. So it's interesting. I mean, they Stern said it when we were there. They said like, the book is out of license, just like Alice in Wonderland, and we've kind of taken our own spin on it. And it's not a licensed property in that sense. And then clearly they stayed away from the buildings, and I think stayed away from the damsel in distress even because they felt like maybe that was taken from a storyline that they would have to get licensed for. Have you heard that, Jamie? Or
I was talking to George and I don't remember asking him that, so I don't remember that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's just some people are saying for sure.
It's popped up on Pinside. It might have even been from the Elwyn interview with Joel, maybe the other night.
Yeah, so Triple Drain did a 3-hour interview with George Gomez, Gary Stern, and Keith Elwyn, and Jeremy Packer. Great interview if you guys haven't heard it.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my radar, and I've been meaning to. We've been away this weekend, so I haven't had a chance to sort of catch up on that stuff. But yeah,
it's 3 hours. It's 3 hours.
So section off a bit of time for it. Yeah. But so one other thing I'd like to talk about is just sort of release day and sort of the trajectory of the game as it sort of went through release day. So the first sort of trailer video reveal got released, and obviously then it hits Pinside, and all of the sort of the reviews of that trailer start rolling in, and that's where this it's too purple, the colors aren't right, comic book Kong isn't what I was expecting. This is probably when the most, I guess, negativity on the art sort of came to the forefront. And then it was later that evening that the gameplay stream got released. At least it was my evening. It might have been your afternoon. That the gameplay stream got released, and it was then that I think particularly for me, like I loved the trailer. I loved the art. I had no problem with any of it. I thought it looked great, but it was after the gameplay trailer that really got me excited about how it played and how it looked and what the animations were like and things like that. And the Pinside thread sort of had pretty much the same reaction I did. It all became really super positive, a lot more excited. A lot of people that said that they were on the fence and now are definite and things like that. What about you guys? Jamie, did you sort of have the same reaction I did to both of those events, or did you have a different trajectory with the way that you thought about the game?
I'll tell you, it was really weird. We watched the gameplay video at Barrels of Fun in their conference room.
Okay, all right.
When we were touring Dune. That's a true story.
Wow.
David Van Ness said, "Hey, there's something coming out today. You guys want to see it?"
Yeah.
It just came out 5 minutes ago, and he put it up on the big screen, and we all together thought it looks pretty cool, right?
Okay.
And I was pretty excited because I'm getting to see it in 2 days from there. So
yeah. What a strange set of circumstances.
Did he say, "Look, we got more video footage than they do, so it's all good"?
No, he just said, "Look, I'm an enthusiast, just like you are.
Yeah, good,
okay,
good,
let's watch this together, guys." And so we did. It was really kind of cool, actually.
I really love that attitude too, isn't it? Because ultimately that's why we're all in this, isn't it? Is because we all love pinball, and it actually reminds me of seeing Jack Danger and guys from the other teams back when X-Men was out. It was probably Expo, wasn't it? And they were all in a room, in a side room, like playing each other's games and just having a great time. And I think that maybe as people standing on the outside looking in, we kind of imagine them all sort of walking past each other and scowling, as they sort of check out each other's games. But I think the reality is quite different.
The reality is complete different. Just go to TPF and see them when we're all setting up, Robin, right? We're all setting up our booths, and they're walking through, and Chris Turner's talking to Jerry at Multimorphic, and they're talking to Jersey Jack, and they're talking to Spooky, and no, they're They're very
That's-
friendly, much more friendly
very
than you
good.
think they are.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to hear. I reckon.
I didn't watch the video too closely because I knew I was playing it and I didn't want to, taint the reality, as we all know, is once you actually play the game, all that goes away. So it was imminent for me, which was nice. I'll say that, I've played early on a lot of games now over the last couple of years. X-Men certainly gave me this like holy shit moment. And I think that Keith is really pushing the boundaries on his ball paths. You couple that with like knowing that Stern's going to invest in it, knowing that he made it, knowing it's beautiful. I mean, regardless of whether or not it looks like a movie or whatever, like I would say it's definitely one of the best art packages that they've come up with. I told Stern this specifically in the meeting. I was like, I like that none of the art packages are like clearly the best or clearly the worst. It makes me feel really comfortable about getting the premium because, look, there's just not enough in it to make the LE worth it. Like I think like a Jaws was, because it just doesn't look that different, and that makes me feel good about my decision. I feel like I can spend 9,500 or whatever and not have that FOMO so much and get an amazing game. So I personally like the decisions that they made. There's definitely been some chatter about maybe Stern is like actually trying to drive the premium to be, the big one so that you don't have this kind of FOMO thing, because clearly people are like sitting on the sidelines on the LE, and they've been doing that for a while now. So maybe they're being smart about it. I don't really know.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the actual experience of going to the Stern premises and playing the game, guys. You guys are both in a very unique position at the moment in that, you're probably, from a consumer point of view, you're one of, I mean, how many people were at the event the other day?
We had a joke of over under 35, Rob. How do you, I think we were right at around 33, 35 people.
Yeah, it was more than what was at D&D. I'll give you guys a little bit of footage of something behind it. We started off with everyone taking pictures of Keith, and he had this great pose, which was fun. We got a little bit of a tour of the facility, so we'll go ahead and play that for you guys. Last time we were there, they weren't making games. No one was there. It was early January, so the entire place was effectively closed. So a lot more energy there. But again, they had 5 machines. There's just so many ball paths on this game, so many shots to be focused on. My favorite part is that these Kong targets on the left-hand side and the left flipper, it's pretty easy to feed that left flipper. You can cradle up with the left flipper and hold on to it and decide if you want to go high for 2 shots or if you want to try to get the Kong targets. You do have to clear those Kong targets twice to get the main multi-ball going. So you do have to go up there a lot. There's also kind of similar to D&D, which I know a lot more people have played that. You can feed that upper right flipper pretty effectively, allowing you to build that into the strategy. And there's 2 shots on that. Kind of reminds me of like a Foo or I don't know. There's a lot of shots from Elwyn where you have 2 shots from that upper right-hand flipper. But I felt like it really incorporates those 2 in the strategy. A lot of talk about the pro being great. You're missing the gong on the right, you're missing the train, and you're missing the spider, but like all those elements are still there. What's interesting about the premium is that the gong actually like kicks the ball back out and kind of blocks it. So we're seeing a situation where you're getting kind of different gameplay between the 2, which I think is a little bit rare.
But that's probably the only difference in terms of gameplay, isn't it?
I think so. The spider definitely doesn't make a difference. The
physical lock.
There's
Physical
virtual
lock
locks
of the balls,
on that. But as far as I mean, I love that there's actual drop targets on the pro, right? Like I think that would be really missing otherwise.
Did you have a tough time? It took me 2 or 3 games, Robin, to figure out the river diverter. But once I figured out using the action button,
that part I forgot about.
The river, then you could really trap up to the top left, and it's almost like a mini danger room up there. Decide to hit the 2 shots or to get the Kong letters. Really
let me see if I can kind of talk to you guys about that, because that is a really cool feature that at the same time didn't take me that long to figure out. Whereas like for some reason, like even on D&D, I'm like kind of nervous about using that center thing. So this piece of plastic right here, I don't know exactly if it folds up or folds down, but you see the button in the middle like flashing a lot. And basically by hitting the button, you bring this diverter down. So whenever you hit this center shot and bring it around, you actually get it to this flipper. And if you hold up that flipper, the ball just stops right there. Like you feel like you're really under control. Whereas if you don't have it active, it'll just come down here and it'll kind of pass through this gate right here, which is kind of interesting. The other thing that's cool is that if you hold this flipper up for too long, the river will fall out from underneath you, basically. So you actually cannot hold that ball there for a particularly long amount of time. And then there's a ton of icons on this thing, which gets me really excited because I know after playing like Avengers with the targets on the left, like I know there's going to be a lot of depth to that. And I hate to go back to X-Men, but there's all these lights that don't do anything. And with Elwyn, it's like, I know he's going to make these lights work. So I'm in, baby. Put me in.
These center inserts here, the yellow ones with the arrows, are they bonus qualifiers?
This thing is
climbing
cool. If I understand.
Tell me about that.
So I got to play a lot with Travis Muri. I was posting like 150, 200 million, and we moved from the premium to the pro, and he put up 700 million.
Wow.
On his first pro game. He hit this center spinner 12 times in a row, and it was like building up this huge value. I was like, come on, buddy. So the way I understand these lights here in the center is you're always climbing the tower. So there is a tower in this game. It's just not physical. No matter what you're doing, you're always climbing the tower. And once you get to the top, there's a hurry up on this shot right here. So you got to feed this flipper, and then you got to hit that shot, and it's on a timer. So like, I feel like if I understand it correctly, no matter what you're doing, you're always kind of building this thing that's always going to present itself as a challenge in the middle of everything else you're doing. And that was like really exciting for me to contemplate how I would play that.
Just had a comment from the side saying the river diverter is one of his favorite things about. That's from Flipnick. Hey Nick, how you going, mate? River diverter is one of his favorite things about the game.
He's here to push the pro, so let us have
it. yeah. But I love the fact that you can't trap up for too long and then up a flipper before the ground fall. Like that's such an old school like video game trope, isn't it? You know, like hanging out, like from Frogger days, even, with the logs sort of, falling under the river line and dying as a result.
Point.
It's like very
Absolutely.
much like that. Yeah, so that's really cool. I love that idea.
So I'll talk you through. The Pro has like a flat plastic plane, so that's kind of funny. The plane in the Pro is flat plastic. I do like how visible it is over here. So you don't have the train, so you can get this like kind of kickback. I think they call it the punchback. You can actually see what's going on with that better. You can see this scoop better. The gorilla King Kong doesn't move, but he looks the same. So King Kong's actually 3D printed, Davey. I wanted to
really
throw that out for you. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. Because, well, I mean, I've been talking a lot with Paul Jazz Boucher about this, because obviously he's quite interested in the Kong in this game. For those that don't know, Jazz Boucher was the modder behind Atomic Godzilla and Godzilla, so obviously he's very interested in the Kong. But one of the complications with this is obviously Kong interacts with the balls, so if you're looking to paint him up, then that ball interaction is going to be a complexity to deal with, because the paint's going to rub off, so whatever you do, it's going to have to be quite robust, so that, paint doesn't end up flaking off over 100 games or 200 games or whatever. Did you find out what technology they used to do him then, Rob? Because
no, and honestly, like looking at these pictures, you can't see it as much. I mean, there's always a chance that one of the machines we were looking at, it was just like really faint lines that just kind of helped you understood how it was made originally, but then they're doing multiple levels of post-process to make it look great. I'm not saying it looks like a 3D printed object. It's just that, we as builders all know that it's really about the finishing process. Sometimes with this thing, it's not about necessarily, where it originated from.
we've got a comment here that said, that Elwin said that the model on his desk was 3D printed, so it might not be 3D printed. That I mean, that's sort of like the comment I was making. I think when it comes to these kind of, and it's like the gong as well. I mean, obviously the gong is a bash target, and if you look at that gong, if you just sort of pull him up again, Rob, sorry, the gong. So if you zoom in on that, you can see that essentially it's single color, and they've just put a bit of a black wash over the top of it. And then possibly that wash is sort of pulled around his eyes and things like that. Now, you would have to think that around the skull area, the ball's not going to interact with that at all, is it? It's only going to interact with sort of the lower bit of that gong. Right. So there's less of a risk of, and I wouldn't have even thought that something like this would be painted. It's more likely that they'll mix the paint in with, whatever material they're using to produce the gong, and it just comes out that way, and then you're not running the risk of sort of paint coming off when the ball's striking it. And that's always the problem we have as modders, is that we don't really have access to these levels of manufacturing to be able to do these kinds of things. I mean, even guys like Lior, who's pretty much at the top of the game when it comes to modding, he's had huge problems with bash toys for things like the Hobbit and paint coming off of his models. So I don't think there's a modder yet who has done a bash toy that's been resilient or found a process for that. So that one's out in the open. So anybody looking to redo the gong needs to consider that.
Yeah, totally. I will say, kind of getting into like some of the mod stuff I've noticed, and we're gonna bounce all over on this, so bear with us, guys. There's a lot of space so both the Pro and the Premium have this skull right here, and there's a ton of space there for something super interesting. I felt like in general, I kind of got the feeling there was a good amount of space for some really fun stuff. I loved this graphic on these slings. So I think there's a bunch of opportunities for that. I think there was not really mod related, but I love how they did the locks on this ramp here in the middle. Ton of fun. So those are like LEDs like embedded into the ramp, and I'm not sure how they did it. And then of course this habit trail here, which is related to this big shot that I was mentioning here off the right flipper. Like, that's just really, really fun movement. And it's a tough shot in the game, so it's not like you're like kind of hitting that huge payoff shot like you are in like Bond or something. It's semi rare. So I really like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I mean, for me personally, it's that back left corner that holds the most appeal from a modding point of view. Redoing that skull with like a resin waterfall coming out the mouth that's got LEDs underneath of it to produce a water pattern, and then changing it up to blood in the water, very similar to sort of what I did with the boy. I find that really appealing. And just behind that skull too, there's a volcano. You can sort of see it in the background on that earlier shot.
I was hoping I could get a...
There it is. There. So there's a volcano sort of behind him on the right. So when they first announced, the island theme, it was kind of rocks and lava that I thought had the most possibility for me. In terms of, sort of my usual shtick, which is like, resin with LEDs underneath lighting it up, and, doing sort of like a fire pattern or a pulsing lava. So seeing that volcano in the background and the skull next to it, I thought that the juxtaposition of, water coming out of the waterfall and lava from a, volcano next to it could work really, really well. So that's the bit that I'm probably going to focus on first.
Here's a look at the river thing.
Right.
Goes up and down. Didn't even realize how it worked. But lots of blur in these official shots from stern.
They're getting a little bit of fieldy.
There's a little bit of a kind of opportunity here with this display, but you can see that again in the Pro, the Premium, and in the LE. You're going to have that skull plastic back there. So definitely we'll see lots of options on that one, I'm sure.
So one thing that I thought could be incorporated more into, so we've got, and you mentioned it earlier, Jamie, is kind of like the Art Deco-y sort of style of New York and stuff. And we've sort of, you can see that on the LE back glass. And obviously on the LE side rails, there's sort of like an Art Deco-y pattern as well. But it's not reflected massively on the playfield itself, is it? So I thought that, being able to sort of pull that in might be a really cool idea or cool thing to do. I guess the complexity there is how it relates to the very Tiki sort of island theme that's sort of going on elsewhere. And, whether those two things work together or not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm still kind of I wish I would have evaluated it from an island versus city. I guess there's a lot of comments about how the stuff happening on the screen isn't you're just kind of moving from one area to the next. There's not a lot of cohesiveness there. So it'll be interesting to see how folks handle the mods in terms of, which direction they go with that as well.
Yeah. I think that area around the spider is really interesting as well, and the water, and because it's kind of, there's a lot of monsters around that section as well, isn't there? I think there's a pterodactyl and there's a crocodile, and the idea of the river sort of flowing through that, and is it a river, is it swampland or whatever? So I think that area is really interesting as well. A lot of flat plastics that could be replaced there. So there's some opportunities there for some ambitious modders.
Don't you think the spider will be the first one that they mod out for the Pro, just because it's just a magnet from underneath that pulls the spider down?
Is it? So could you confirm that when you played it?
I confirmed
that was the case. Okay, all right. Well, that's really interesting, because I thought it might have been coil controlled, like a bit like how the Overlord is in Foo Fighters.
No, it is just a magnet underneath the spider that springs it down.
Okay.
And the magnet's already there on the Pro, so I can't see how someone's not going to print money making that.
Okay, that's
it did feel it felt a little empty without that. So I definitely think having something there to make it kind of tie to the storyline would be good as well. So Jamie, what's Jamie, what's the vibe been from your perspective? I don't know if you've been following Pinside. We saw definitely a sea change kind of happening there. Have you been feeling like people are hating on anything specific, or?
No, I haven't really. From the podcast that we've put out, we've got nothing but people that are excited about playing and shooting and flipping this game, right? From the Pro to the Premium or LE. Mm-hmm. I found that the Pro, and Keith alluded to this, there's the same shots from the Pro to the Premium. They're the same. Mm-hmm. The only major difference is obviously it's virtual locks. And when you start your Kong multi-ball, there's one more shot you have to do on the Pro to activate. And that was that right.
You got to hit the right loop. Yep.
Right loop, yeah. So, no, my perspective is that it is a fantastic machine. I love shooting it. I put about 10 to 12 plays on them. And I can't wait to play it even more.
So based on your initial sort of, and I know it's really difficult to tell these things based on 10 games. It's sort of like, you need to get them in your house to like really get a feel for it. And that changes from 1 month to the next and everything. But I mean, just purely on sort of what your experience with this one is so far, guys, do you see it as being, where do you see it on the ladder of Keith Elwin games?
Oh, I think it's one of the best Keith Elwin games. Right off the bat. Is it, we were discussing in length, is it a Godzilla killer? I don't know. I think that's a little premature to be a Godzilla killer, but I definitely think it's one of his best machines.
On theme, it's where I'm going to tend to go with Elwin, which is Jurassic and Godzilla. Like, all the other ones are great games, but as far as owning them, they don't do it as much for me. But this one, I don't own Godzilla anymore. I have to admit it. I don't have it anymore. It's very sad. So being in that bucket, it's like I feel like I'm bringing back something very familiar. Yeah. But also just new, right? Like, I mean, it's just gonna be so many new shots to experience than what I would have if I still had Godzilla. So I feel like it's a great fit for that reason.
I think Godzilla, and people were bringing this up in the thread too, and I'd kind of forgotten this aspect of it, but Godzilla was positioned at a really fortuitous time in the world, where the world was at that time. It was released just before COVID hit. And obviously there was a big pinball boom during that time because everybody was trying to find things to do in their houses. So it benefited probably from, being, an incredibly sort of, it's obviously an amazing game. Some people say it's overrated, but I think, I don't think anybody can argue sort of what its impact on pinball has been. We always try and calculate how many have been sold. And, obviously Stern don't release their sales figures. So we try to extrapolate that based on, how many Tokyo Neon mods I've sold and, and how many Tokyo Neons we think, or what percentage of Godzillas in the world have a Tokyo Neon on them. And I think, best case scenario would be that 1/10 of Godzillas have a Tokyo Neon on them. And so if you take the sales figures that I've had on that and put that across, and times that by 10, we're talking like 20,000 sort of Godzillas out there, which is encroaching on Addams Family sales figures. So it's an incredibly successful game, both for pinball and for Stern. So, we're probably not going to hit those heights again, and purely because the world is in a different place than it was when Godzilla was released.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, for me, for Jaws, cool game. I've enjoyed every time I play it. I feel like I hear about people raving about how great it is, despite the theme and everything. So I'll be curious if we see a similar thing with King Kong as far as the code goes. Like, are people like loving this even more than what their kind of initial reaction is? Obviously, we're starting from a pretty high place on Kong, but I think that'll at least help it kind of approach success for them, as if they can actually deliver on the code. Mm-hmm. There is some fun modes in the game that I already saw. There's a do you remember what the name of that plunger skill shot mode is, Jamie?
Oh, what was that? No.
So
that's really neat.
So with Black Knight, as we may all know, there's a mode where you don't flip, right? You just, you only flip the top flipper and you're trying to hit the loops. Do you know what I'm talking about, Davey?
On Black Knight, Swords of Rage?
Yes.
Yep. I know the one, yep.
So they've got a takeover mode where you can't flip. All you can do is plunge, and you can just keep launching balls, and you're trying to plunge it into the far left in lane, I believe.
In lane, not out lane.
Not out lane, far left in lane, which is...
Because that's a Congo throwback as well, isn't it? Because Congo had a skill shot where you needed to plunge into the left out lane.
Yes.
Where you couldn't flip while it was happening?
No, but you could continue to, if it didn't hit anything, if it didn't register at Congo, you can keep going for that skill shot.
Yeah, this is called Deadeye, or Deadeye. It's not a multi-ball, but Deadeye mode or something. But it's cool because you end up doing it for 15, 20 seconds trying to hit it. I don't know if it's a save your ball type thing, which I think that's what it is in Black Knight, but definitely a lot of fun.
I wonder how many throwbacks there are like that, because obviously they've based the playfield art, particularly around the sling area and the lower flippers, on the never released Data East King Kong, haven't they?
Yes.
So there's one throwback there. Possibly that skill shot is a Congo sort of reference. I wonder how many sort of other things have been pulled like that, because obviously Elwyn's a big fan of playing pinball as well as designing them, isn't he? And he's world-class competitive player. So it'd be interesting to know sort of what other aspects of this game have sort of been
well, the sweepable targets were from, I don't remember the pin now, but someone will correct me. But the sweepable drop targets to the left are definitely an homage to a game that I wrote down and forgot.
Yeah, like earlier Stern titles. Like, like Solid State Stern titles from ages ago. Yeah,
but I don't remember the one. I wrote it down, but there you go.
Yeah. So Elwyn did respond to this question, and he kind of gave me the impression that it doesn't go too deep in terms of those things. He did say, I think it's
Quicksilver. Somebody said
Kevin O'Connor, I think, was the artist. So he did work pretty closely with Kevin to kind of get to the point where they are on the art. You can see there's the building in the center, there's the doors in the middle. Outside of that, he did say that he started with the shot, which he calls the punchback, which is where the ball goes around this loop, hits that target, then there's a solenoid, I believe, that kicks it back around if it hits it hard enough. And he built the whole game around that shot as a starting point. So I thought that was kind of cool to hear. And I know that shot is I don't know, Nick, if you're still out there, I think you knew what it was from, but it's from some game. He didn't come up with it, but that was the beginning point, effectively.
The only one that I know that's similar to that is the Raptor shot of Data East Jurassic Park, where it's like it's a shot near the top, and you sort of hit the Raptor, and there's a coil in the back of it, and it shoots it straight back at you. So it's like a really aggressive sort of shot, because you sort of hit it and you're stoked for hitting it, but then it comes back at you with the exact same speed, and it's like it's quite an aggressive attack, sort of, you feel like the pinball's attacking you.
And Black Knight kind of does that too, right? It's not as aggressive as the one you're talking about there, because it's just got so long to travel. But it is it's definitely like kind of makes you think he's kind of fighting back at you. So that's
So you mean like the flail where when the flail's sort of in Black Knight, when the flail's moving and it hits the ball back at you.
Kind of hits it back.
Yeah. Cool. So what other modding opportunities do you think there is in Kong then? Can you think
certainly
of any other?
Plenty of topper opportunities. So I would hope to think anyway. I mean, of course, we know we're going to get something from Stern. I'll be interested if they do something with the building, but maybe since Jamie, our expert intellectual property, has told us the building is out. It's out. I don't know if
the Empire State Building for sure is out. Any type of building they can put in, but the Empire State Building is absolutely a licensed property.
So essentially, they could license it and do a topper based on that.
If they didn't license it for the game, I doubt they're going to license it just for the topper.
Or maybe they save. Maybe they're saving it because, like, from a topper perspective, we were kind of talking about that building. Like, if you actually would have put that building in the game, you're either cutting it off at the very top or you're making it super slender. So there's just not a lot of room to work with there. Beyond that, I mean, it'll probably have a mode, so we can kind of expect that. But as far as modders, I'm sure we're going to see some cool stuff, and because I'm getting the game, I'll certainly be thinking about it. We'll see where it goes. But
so Andy from Rocket City also wanted to mention the dragon in the Game of Thrones is also. I'm not familiar with Game of Thrones, so I don't know that particular shot. But he said that's another one that sort of has got that sort of attacks you, I guess. Rob, you mentioned to me recently that. That probably you guys aren't going to be looking at sort of newer release games for toppers. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it's just a thing where, whenever you've got so many people, picking up Stern, especially with the mode, sometimes it seems to make less sense for us. But also, if we come up with the idea that we really love and we think that it can help differentiate itself from a Stern offering, which we know typically doesn't, push the boundaries as far as what we can do, who knows, we might fall in love with it. So that's kind of where we're at on a couple of games right now, where they keep kind of popping back up, and we'll move on, and then we'll land on an idea that's like, oh my god, we almost cannot not do this, so that'd be the kicker for King.
So you would let the idea be the driver of that, or would you wait until you saw sort of what Stern was going to do and then make a decision on it?
I mean, it's going to be top of mind because I've got the game, right? There's a lot of time it's just like, how much time are you investing in thinking about ideas? And also being inspired by the game. Because we like to do things where it's like, I'm going to give a shout out to Hector, one of our customers, Davey. We spent some time with Hector, and
a lot of time
with Hector. We had a good Saturday night.
I love Hector.
He was kind of talking about what we want out of pinball machines and talking about pinball moments, which is like just something to where we're either excited about it, or even more importantly, we have a friend over and we're excited about telling them about it. Godzilla does that really well with the building collapsing. I think that King Kong, we haven't talked about the fact he punches the top of the glass, but that's pretty cool. The train exploding and the ball is kind of going off in different directions. It's not Godzilla level cool. And that may be something that's going to be hurting King Kong, but it is cool. But it is about pinball moments, and he was kind of talking about pinball moments in toppers, and I like to believe that we do that with a lot of our toppers, if not all of them. And if we can come up with something that makes Hector happy, who knows? Who knows?
He's our new yardstick
Yeah,
for what makes a good topper.
It's not too far off from the way that we think, but he was able to kind of describe it in a way that was a lot more specific. So I'll give him a shout out for that, and that's what we would strive for sure.
It's difficult though, isn't it, particularly with toppers, because obviously they have to come in at a certain price point, and and the more stuff you add and the more complexity you add, you run the risk of these things either failing or not working or coming into problems. So there's always that balancing act, isn't there, between wanting to push the boundaries but making it still resilient enough that it's going to survive the test of time.
Totally. And in install time, I mean, our install time across our toppers has varied greatly. Shout out to, the customers who, take the time to do it right. Sometimes people just don't do it right, and it limits the functionality, because of course we're not like tapping into the serial bus of these games. So that's something we're thinking about. You mentioned the service side of things, and just longevity of them. So certainly a number of factors there.
Yep. Who have we got here?
Well, let's answer this one. This is important.
Okay. You love not purchased early. You really want to keep an eye on mods you discussed. Hang on, sorry.
Stumblerpinball.com.
Keep an eye. Yeah. Stumblerpinball.com. So the easiest way to so we post regularly on Pinside. Kong's a little bit different in a lot of ways, because all the modders know that Kong's going to be a really good selling game. Elwyn games are always really good fun to mod. And Godzilla was a massive, modding game, both in terms of sort of the customer base, their appetite for modding, and obviously the sales stats for Godzilla were so good that it meant that the market was really good for mods as well. So most of the modders sort of realized that sort of Kong was sort of going to fall into the same kind of bracket as that. So I think everybody's kind of approaching this one a little bit, and it sounds horrible because we're all friends, but a little bit more aggressively in terms of sort of telegraphing sort of what they're working on. The day that sort of Kong came out, I was on the phone to Paul Jasbouchet, talking about sort of what interested us, or, what areas we thought, our skill sets would sort of best be applied to. I've been speaking to John in the background as well, another UK modder. I've sent some PMs to Tom T. Diddy as well, just to sort of give him a heads up that I was sort of thinking about sort of certain things, getting his feedback about what he was interested in. Essentially just trying to sort of just trying to feel everybody out, just so that we didn't step on each other's toes. Like, we are good mates. Tom comes on the show, and, we love having him on. He's a highly talented dude. He does great work. So there's nothing worse than finding out that you and your really good friends have been working on the same thing, and that you're going to be going into competition with them, over a particular mod. But the reality is that on games like this, that's going to happen, because, we are kind of all interested in sort of working on it and producing stuff for it. So I don't think that we've all really worked out exactly what the best approach to that is yet, in terms of sort of the collaborative side of working out, I guess, who does what, and where the rules are around that. But I'm very aware of it, and going forward, it's something that that I'm trying to think about more and more. So it does mean that, people are posting on Pinside, they're kind of telegraphing what their actions are going to be. But outside of that, the best way is to jump on, from my perspective, the newsletter. You can just jump on stumblerpinball.com, jump on the newsletter, and we'll make sure that anytime that something's ready to be announced or released, it'll definitely get sent out on the newsletter first, as well as a post on Pinside as well.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what you guys do, because obviously there's a likelihood that a lot of you will do multiple mods, and kind of once you start working with someone new on a game, you might want to stick with them. So divvying up those areas is going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, and Andy in the chat just earlier from Rocket City, you know, we love Andy. We've had him on the show, you know, and we always, you know, go and interview him too. Very hardworking dude, very well loved in the industry. He also mentioned that he was looking at the skull and the waterfall as well. So, and there was also another dude who I'm not familiar with, who mentioned that they were looking at it. So it's going to be a crowded playing field around that skull area. It's just one of those things, you know, no hard feelings, everybody, if we step on each other's toes. You know, and, you know, I like to think as well that, you know, I try and help out people as much as possible too, if they've sort of got a blocker, particularly technically, you know, that, and, you know, they reach out for help or advice, you know, we'll always be here to assist with that. Because I think, you know, ultimately all of us are stronger together in building up the customer base and the appetite for mods and the legitimacy of them as well. You know, I think modding has always had a bit of a stigma attached to it, possibly because of its history of people just gluing in Happy Meal toys and stuff like that. So, you know, we're constantly trying to sort of raise the profile of it and make it more legitimate, make it more professional. And, you know, part of that is making sure that everybody sort of gets pulled up by those actions.
Jamie, were you part of bringing new games into the wormhole, like as far as setting them up and making decisions around them?
Oh yeah.
Is there like
and John, specifically John Spates from Eureka did that. That was his role as well.
Are there things that you guys did, inner art blades, pin stadiums? Was there kind of like a little bit of an arsenal of stuff, or did it just kind of depend on the game that you guys
It really depended on the game. You know, the wormhole was very dark, so lights was something very, very important for us. You know, at Eureka Heights now, they mod out everything. Taylor and John.
Yeah, they've got our Godzilla topper. I mean, it's like pretty rare for location. Yeah,
they are mod nuts. So
good to hear. Good to hear. Good
I was talking to them on Saturday when I got back, and they wanted to do a conference call with me of what do you think? And I said, well, I think someone's going to mod that biplane pretty quickly, and we definitely, you know, because that makes total sense. I don't know how you would do. I think, Dave, you made a great point. How do you handle a mod on the Pro for the Gong? I don't know how you do that.
No, I think that's a real, and nobody has done it, to my knowledge, has produced a bash toy that's resilient to the point of, you know, what the manufacturers can produce.
Yeah, so that's going to be a challenge, but definitely the biplane, definitely the spider. I think you guys, it's interesting to me as an outsider of the mod community, how your brains work, both of you, by looking at a machine and you go, yeah, I look at that area right here. And
that's both like, I also see it as being a really horrible thing too, mate, because like, I just want to enjoy the game, you know, and as soon as the game arrives, and like, if I start pulling it apart, then it instantly becomes part of the job, I suppose. And I love modding, you know, it's difficult calling it a job because I enjoy it so much and I'm passionate about it. But as soon as you start working on it, then you're not enjoying pinball anymore. You're doing something else.
But on the other hand, like a lot of people, that's what they enjoy about pinball. And you hear that over and over again. I mean, the amount of people that I've interacted with, whether it's part of the business or not, that have like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of mods before they even get the game, like that's a thing for sure. And then of course you've got a lot of people that take a really long time to put this stuff in, and they're okay with that, right? Because it's like this constant, like, kind of toy chest to go to. Which is but as far as looking at it, I agree with you, Davey. I mean, the big thing with mods, I think for me, is like, I don't like covering ball paths any more than what they already are, and you see a lot of stuff. I think the classic is Jurassic Park, like people putting in palm trees. Like there's like, you'll see a Pinside post of a Jurassic Park, and there's just like, or not palm, whatever trees, and it's just like covering the thing. So everybody has different tastes for sure. And a lot of it's just like, if they enjoy it and they can get a ton of trees and put them in, they're going to do it.
Yeah, and I think cool. Yeah, we've made the point plenty of times as well, and I sort of disparagingly referred to the Happy Meal sort of modders and stuff like that, but ultimately that's all part of our scene. Like even if you're, doing things that possibly are irreversible, and we definitely try and steer away from as modders. We always try and make it so that you can revert the game back to, its original state. We also have to accept that those stigmas and things are a part of what we do, and you can either try and reject it outright, or you can just absorb it and say, okay, that's all part of this one big thing, which is modding, and you move forward with that as a whole. And I think we're going to be in a better position if we do that and just accept that that is a thing, and that people will glue trees to their plastics. And
we are starting from the base point of someone who has the taste profile to put a pinball machine in their home.
Yeah.
So hey,
you make
it's all fair game.
You make a good point. And I think we lose sight of that at times when we're arguing about damsels in distress and the color purple. It's just like, ultimately, my wife has been very lenient with me, being able to put these games in our home when it certainly doesn't match her vision of what a beautiful home looks like.
Definitely. Well, should we talk about the damsel in distress thing? Should we close it off with a little,
yeah,
sure. What's going on with that one?
Let's get controversial, shall we? So we talked a little bit about the purple thing. People had a problem with the purple. There's tons of purple games. I don't know why people suddenly decide that purple is not a thing. I mean, my personal opinion is that because Harry Potter's coming out soon, and June's out around about the same time, I firmly believe that people just wanted to talk themselves out of this one, just so that they didn't have to think about buying it. And that's cool. Like, we've all done that on games at times, we've just gone, we've found some arbitrary reason that we don't like it, so that we don't have to think about wanting it or needing it, and shutting down that FOMO as quickly as possible. And that's great. So to me, the purple thing and the secondary thing, which was the damsel in distress. So this was raised on Pinside today, it was mentioned that people were talking about the fact that this take on King Kong wasn't in line with the iconic image of King Kong. This, all those comments that we made earlier in the stream. He wasn't climbing the tower. He didn't have a woman in his hand. And I think somebody mentioned about the, Joel's podcast the other night, and that somebody mentioned that that they could have a woman in the game, but she couldn't be in distress. Right now, I'm not sure where that spec came from, whether it was a licensing thing or whether they just decided as a team that they didn't want to do things that way. Anyway, they just decided, and that's the direction they went in. A couple of people on Pinside took real issue to this, to the point where that if there wasn't a damsel in distress in the game, then they weren't going to buy the game, which is a pretty strong sort of take on it, I think. And of course, as soon as you start sort of, talking about these kind of things anywhere, then, there was accusations of, wokery and all the rest of it. And, people are making these decisions for political reasons and all the rest of it. Of course, things are going to go in that direction. But the question remains, like, who really gives a crap, right? Like, I mean, and how much of the audience does give a crap? To me, it just sort of, harked back to, I mean, I think the John Wick guns thing, the Jaws eating the ball thing, it seems like every Stern release has to have some kind of controversy that people are up in arms about. And to be honest, this seems the weakest of the lot. John Wick, like the John Wick guns thing, fine. I guess people are making the argument, or people were making the argument, that she's a lead character in King Kong, and that she should have been represented in her, original way. But, I mean, obviously she was a thing in the original Kong, but is she in any of the other, like, is it,
I'm a big Kong fan, and yes, there's a damsel in every major Kong movie.
Okay.
Yes. All right. But I told them on the tour, I said, you guys could attach a gold brick to these machines and people will complain that now they're too heavy. I'm telling you, Pay no mind to those people. It's a great machine. If you don't like it, don't buy it. And if you don't like it, go flip it at your local arcade because they're coming in the
Yeah,
next 4 weeks. They'll be
yeah,
there
yeah,
and put it. It's totally worth putting $1 in because I think you're really gonna like it.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure I'm going to fall into that bracket as well, because yeah, it's a total non-issue to me. Um, but it seems to happen every release, doesn't it? Particularly when JJP go up against Stern, you've got the same people sort of fighting in the corners.
Right.
But it only seems to be from a consumer point of view that these sort of these lines get drawn in the sand, right? You were saying earlier that the actual people responsible for producing these games all love each other's work, and there's a good sense of camaraderie there behind the scenes.
Yeah. This was a big discussion with Bond because the Bond women multiplier didn't work forever, right? And there was a lot of talk about, is it because they don't want to have the clips? And eventually they showed the clips with the girls and the bikinis and whatnot, and it was a non-issue, but it was certainly dominated Pinside for a while. I think you're right to a point that when people kind of decide they're not going to do this one, they're obviously giving themselves reasons, and if they're a part of a conversation, they're gonna share those reasons. So it's definitely kind of a catch-22 when it comes to Pinside and following that.
But the code's at what, 80%?
Really, I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah, it might be 78. Don't count, but I got the feeling that we were at close to 80%. A lot of neat things happening with Insider Connected. Different modes, different challenge modes that are going to be coded into the game. So a lot to come.
Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I think this is probably the most exciting release for me from any manufacturer for a while. And I'm just really excited. I'm just going to try and hold off pulling that glass off for as long as possible.
Well,
and
good
just
luck.
try and get us. Yeah.
Good luck.
I know.
Well, we got some good comments coming from Big Tony. I guess maybe the takeaway from a mod perspective is, of course, we cannot fix that part of the game, but I'm sure there's going to be some people who are going to get some stuff in there. There was a ton of stuff from games that are bringing nostalgia in, and that's one of the great things about it. So might be a good starting point for a mod, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Jamie, thank you so much, buddy. I know you're in demand. I know you got your own stuff going on, but we really appreciate you coming on. Is there a URL? Where can we find you?
Yeah, just on YouTube. Okay. You can just Google Jamie_Burchell or the JBS Show, and you'll find me on all the socials and everywhere else.
Awesome. Davey, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's late.
Always
there.
A pleasure.
We're excited to see what you got coming out. For everybody who joined, we had a ton of people from Pinside. Don't hate our comments. We love you guys.
I didn't say anything bad about
keep
Pinside.
us entertained. Crazy Levi, bring it on, baby. Talk about whatever you want. I love following you. You guys are great. We'll be back. We're going to share more. Hopefully get my hands on the Dune soon. Jamie, any comments on Dune? Did you get some worm action? Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I put 5 games on it, guys. Okay. I'm not an
Okay.
expert on Dune. What I did say is when you walk up, it's brown. You forget about that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty darn fun.
I hear they're gonna make an experience. If you want the IP in a game, Dune is gonna deliver on that over King Kong all day. So thank you to these guys for making cool stuff. Can't wait to play it. Davey, any last comments? I'm kind of.
I think the worm mech looks amazing, and I'd like to have a closer look at it. I think that's a standout feature, isn't it? On Dune, I loved the films. I'm not a sort of a Dune fanboy. Really, I didn't see the original movie with Sting. I haven't read the books, but I loved the modern films. I thought they were really. They had a lot of personality. And a lot of iconic set pieces, particularly the fighting scenes. I love Barrels as a company. I think they're doing, really great stuff. They're sort of dancing to their own tune. I thought the timing with everything was a bit unfortunate for them, and I've heard various reasons about why that was behind the scenes. I don't know what the truth is with that. I thought it was a bit unfortunate that they released sort of the day before Kong, but I hope that doesn't impact things for them. And it seems to be that there's a section of people who, of hardcore fans, both of Barrels and of June, that will sort of carry them over the line, and I hope that happens.
Definitely.
Yeah, me too.
All right, guys. Signing off. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Again,
See
Jamie.
you later. See you, team. Thanks a lot.
Bye, gents.
Cheers. Cheers.